Explorers, Kid Explorer here, and today I'm here with my final video review of Paris, France. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you the things you need to know before you go to Paris, France. So we're going to talk about things like transportation, pickpocketing, money, things to do, places to stay, and so much more. So make sure you stay to the end so you can get all of this information so you can prepare for your upcoming trip to Paris or a future trip to Paris. And just to let you know, I am Kid Explorer, yes. And on my channel, I talk about all things travel, photography, and sustainability. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. It's free for you to do so you can be notified when all of my videos release. Now let's get into today's video. So first up, let's talk about transportation. Let's talk about how you're going to get around Paris. Paris is a big, small city. But it can get crazy to get around unless you know what to do. There are various options on getting around Paris. So one, you can always just walk, but Paris is big, so you can't walk everywhere. Depending on which arrondissement you're staying in and where you want to go, it may be a very long walk. So that's not always feasible. The next option is Uber or Free Now, ride sharing vehicles. You can take those vehicles, request a ride to get to where you're going from. That is what we did a couple times while we were in Paris, especially when coming from the airport. But it can get expensive and you can get stuck in traffic, and it's not always the best option for the environment to take a ride sharing vehicle. Oh, and then one time we couldn't even find a car because it was just too busy. So it's not always the most reliable option to do ride sharing. Another option, if you are touring around Paris and you're seeing the sights for the first time, is to just go and take a hop-on, hop-off bus. You know, you pay a fee for the day and you can hop off where you want, see that tourist attraction, and then get back on the bus and it will loop you around to those special attractions that you want to see. My favorite way of getting around Paris is the RATP metro line. Their train. The train does not get stuck in traffic. It can take a lot of people, is fairly cheap, and is good for the environment. You can get where you're going at a fast pace. For me, metro subways are easy because I used to take one when I lived in DC for work, but it's easy to follow a map and just look for which direction you're going to. And you can also use Google Maps. Download Google Maps. You can put in where you're starting from, where you're going, and it will actually tell you the information on how you can get from point A to B on public transit. There is an option for that on Google Maps. And the last option is to take the bus. Again, it's fairly cheap. It's public transportation, so it's a little bit better for the environment, but a bus will get stuck in traffic if there is traffic at that time. Next up, let's talk about pickpocketing. Pickpocketing is a big thing in Paris, particularly around the tourist attractions. You're going to see a lot of warnings about pickpocketing around places like the Eiffel Tower or the Arc. So you need to be very vigilant about what's happening around you so you don't get pickpocketed. Some things that pickpocketers like to do is to ask you to take a survey. And there's usually two people. Someone's going to ask you to help you complete the survey, and the other one's going to pickpocket you at the same time. And so just don't fall for those traps. Keep your stuff tight. Keep things put away. Don't make yourself look like you have something that a pickpocketer will want. Even though cell phones are a big thing that people will take. Money, jewelry, things like that. So keep that stuff put away. Keep your bag put in front of you. Have anti-theft locks on your bags. Don't take everything with you. Leave some stuff locked up in your hotel room or Airbnb, whatever it may be. Next up, let's talk about the people. You know, I hear a lot from people. I don't like Paris. I don't like France, particularly Paris, because people are so mean. The first time I went to Paris in 2019, I was told one key thing that you must do when you go in any place in Paris is to greet someone. So walk into a restaurant, a cafe, and say bonjour madame or bonjour monsieur, and the whole thing will change, your whole vibe, because you're trying to speak French, you're respecting the local culture. Don't go in saying hello. Don't go in just sitting down expecting them to treat you as if you're in your own culture, like in the United States. is definitely different. So it's definitely important to just do a quick greeting, saying bonjour, madame or monsieur, when you walk into a place, and it'll definitely change the tone or the vibe of that environment with people. But for me, for the most part, I always run into great people while in Paris. I've never had an issue with anyone in Paris, except for the weird guy outside of the train station. But I think he was on something. So he was a little strange. Something was odd going on there. But that was a person that I really didn't have to talk to. And you meet people like that around the globe. But yeah, people in Paris, for me, I've never had an issue with anyone and them being rude while in Paris. Let's quickly talk about the money. In the country of France, they take euros. The euro currency, nothing else. When I went to Paris in a previous trip, I went with someone and she had ran out of euros and asked to use US dollars. No, they're not going to accept US dollars. They are only accepting euros or credit cards. So if you don't have enough euros, credit cards are widely accepted in France. And then the euro is typically stronger than the US dollar. Right now in 2022 is fairly close to each other. So the US dollar is going a little bit further than it used to, but that could change again in the future where the euro is stronger than the dollar. So things may be more expensive because of the currency rate based on the US dollar. Let's talk about expectations of Paris. Some people go, it's like half and half, it seems like. I run into some people and they go to Paris and they're completely disappointed, where other people are completely in love. It seems like there's never an in between. You have to set your expectations correctly. Do not think what you see in the movies of Paris is going to happen to you in Paris. It's a movie or a TV show or a book. Paris is glamorized. It is romanticized in the media all the time. It is one of the top destinations in the world, and people always are like, I want to go to Paris. I want to go to Paris. It's so beautiful. I want that romantic lifestyle I see on the movies. That's not it. It's a city. There are some beautiful things in Paris. There are some beautiful cafes. I love Paris, but I also have my expectations set differently than what other people have. And I've talked to other people about it. Actually, just yesterday, I talked to someone and she actually said that her expectation is what she saw in the movies, and that's not it. Movies are movies. They're usually fiction. Paris is Paris, which is real life. And what you may experience in Paris may be different than someone else, but don't think what you're going to see. I know I keep saying this. Don't think what you're going to see in Paris is what you see on TV and in the movies. Bring your expectation down. Don't think it's going to be the best thing in the world and has everything that you want it to have, because that's not it. No place in the world will be ever like that. Let's talk about places to stay. I stayed in several different places in Paris. When I went in 2019, I stayed at the Vic Eiffel Hotel, which was a boutique hotel in Paris. It was very nice. Did have an issue with the billing at the end, but it was a very nice hotel. It was right outside the metro line, and it was a small room, typical for European hotels, and I really liked it. I didn't have any issues with the hotel except for the billing at the end, which they did straighten out. This past time in 2022, I stayed at 2 different hotels. Beginning of this trip, I stayed at the Courtyard Paris Gare de Lyon, which was near a train station, near a metro line. Very nice hotel, very secure. The room was spacious. It was bigger than a hotel room that I even would see in the United States. They had a restaurant on site. It was just a lovely hotel. I would definitely stay there again, and I really appreciated it. It's not as close to like the tourist attractions as you may want it to be. The Vic Eiffel was actually walking distance to the Eiffel Tower. The Courtyard Paris Gare de Lyon was not, but I would stay there again because it is near a train station. The next place I stayed at was the Maxi Paris Bastille. I don't know if I really would stay there again. I didn't really like the room because there was like fruit flies in the room. But the lobby area was really nice. The hotel staff was nice. So it was good. And plus I didn't pay anything for that hotel room. I used points. So I can't really complain that much. But that is an option if you want to stay at that hotel that is available. Okay, the fun part. Where to eat, because I hear some people complain that food in Paris is nasty, and I'm like, you must not be eating at the right places. So this is a list of places that I ate at this time in 2022. I ate at different places in 2019, but I am not 100% sure if they're still open, because you know, between 2019 and 2022, you know what happened, and a lot of places went out of business. So let me get my list here. So places to eat. One place that I really loved was Amici Mie. It was an Italian restaurant near our hotel, the Maxi Paris Bastille. And I had a calzone, which was delicious. My niece had ravioli, which she didn't really care for. I did not either, but the calzone was great. Wine was great. And I'm sure other items on the menu was good as well. Another place, this is more for desserts and snacks, was Lottery. Very good macaron. Like, it was so good. Ice cream was good. You'll see, I think they have a location in the airport. We went on a location, I can't remember the name of the street, but it was near like the Concord Square, I believe it was the name of it. It was near there. Really, really good macarons. Next up is Leclerc. We actually went there for breakfast, but they are open throughout the day. It is in the same arrondissement as the Eiffel Tower, so that's why we went there before we went to the Eiffel Tower. Really good. My niece had a crepe, I believe, and I had a croissant. Delicious food, great service, very cute cafe. Of course, this is on the list, Du Pain et des Adieux, which I learned from Anthony Bourdain in one of his shows when he was still living. He highly recommended this bakery, and I couldn't go there in 2019. I tried to go, I ran out of time, then I tried to go another day, and it was closed. But it was really good. Oh my gosh, every baked item in there just looks delicious. The food was delicious in there. Oh my goodness. The line can be crazy. And for the most part, they only speak French in there. So make sure you know enough to order your food in this bakery. And last up, Le Boucheron. We went there for dinner one day. I think they serve a little bit of variety of food, but we had lasagna. So I think it's more Italian type food. But it was really good. And they gave a lot, which is not normal for me to see in Paris, is getting a big portion of food, but it was really good and flavorful, and I was stuffed to capacity after leaving there. So those are just a few restaurants or cafes that you can eat at while in Paris. Paris has a plethora of cafes and restaurants that you could just walk down the street and see what's on the menu and walk in. But definitely do your research, because as any place in the world, you can run into a restaurant where it's not so good, but there are plenty of great tasting foods out there in Paris. So do your research and go to the right place, or use this list as a basis. Okay, lastly, let's talk about things to do. So first of all, you can take the hop on, hop off bus, which I mentioned before. And I usually do this when I first get to a place, especially after an overnight flight, because I really don't want to exert myself. I'm exhausted, but I want to make sure I make it through the day so I can get to sleep on the Parisian time zone. So doing that is great, especially if it's your first time in Paris. You get to see all of the lovely sights, take a lot of photos, and you can get off and see something nearby those stops. Next up, definitely book a photo shoot. I booked a photo shoot through Airbnb as always, because you know I do Airbnb photo shoot experiences. So I always look there for a photo shoot experience. And we got up early, I think like at 7 a.m., met our photographer outside of the Eiffel Tower, and we have lovely photos to document our experience while in Paris in front of one of the most popular tourist attractions in the world. Now, if you've never been to Paris and you are infatuated with the Eiffel Tower, definitely go inside the Eiffel Tower. So you can actually go in and just explore the gardens, which is free, or you can buy a ticket to go up inside the actual Eiffel Tower. There's a first floor, second floor, and the peak. We went to the second floor because after doing research, it said that was the best view of Paris. And I was cool with how far up it was after I got in there. But it's definitely a great thing to check out if you are really in love with the Eiffel Tower. And speaking of the Eiffel Tower, make sure you go see the Eiffel Tower during the day and at night. They do have light shows at night, and they actually just like in the last few days changed the timing of how long the Eiffel Tower is lit up at night to help with climate change. But they do have light shows top of every hour after dusk, I believe. For 5 minutes at night, they will have the sparkling light show going on. If you miss the sparkling light show, it is lit up. I don't know the cutoff time now. It used to be 1 a.m., but they said they moved it earlier. So definitely research the timing to make sure you can see the Eiffel Tower at night. Now, if you're into this, definitely check out the catacombs. I was not a fan of going to catacombs, but my niece wanted to go. So we went, and it's actually pretty cool, even though after I think about it, I'm like, that's kind of disgusting that it was near human bones. But it was cool to learn the history of why the bones were down there, going through the tunnels, going through the underground area of Paris was very cool. So if you want to check out the catacombs, that is definitely an option. Next up, this is a must, especially if you're African American, to take the Black Paris tour with Ricky Stevenson. I have been on the tour twice, and each time was different. Some of the information was, overlap, and some of it was completely different. But I had to go a second time because I wanted my niece to get history while in Paris. Like, we're not just having fun the whole trip. But it's definitely great because they give you history of African Americans in Paris, history of people of Black descent in France, and they actually give you vital information of navigating yourself around France while you're there, or around Paris while you're there. And then you can spend an entire day at Disneyland Paris. It is about an hour away from the city, but you can take the train out there and not spend that much money to get there via train. It'll take you right in to Disneyland. Like, literally, you get off the RER-A train and Disneyland is right there. It was really cool. It kind of reminds me of Disney World in Orlando, but it was really cool to check out Disneyland in Paris. We had a great time, and that was the way we ended our trip. And of course, you definitely should check out the Arc de Triomphe. Beautiful place to see is another magnificent site you should check out while in Paris, like the Eiffel Tower. Get photos there. And we actually were able to see the Arc de Triomphe while on the Black Paris tour. And another place, if you want to do some shopping around Paris, a lot of tourists go shopping on Champs-Élysées. There's a lot of fancy shops, like Louis Vuitton is on this street as well. And another place you can check out, if you've never been to Paris before and you don't have kids with you, you can go to Moulin Rouge. That is something I did previously. And you can actually get a tour or take a train out to the Palace of Versailles or Chateau de Versailles and check that out, spend a half day, whole day, and check out that beautiful palace right outside of the city of Paris. And of course, you have to visit Musée Louvre, but make sure you have a plan because you could spend way too much time in there. You can visit Musée d'Orsay, which you can actually see this all in one visit. And last but not least, if you want, take a river cruise, but skip the dinner because it was not that great. Okay, so are you ready to go to Paris, France? I hope so. I hope this was helpful to you and helpful in breaking down my experience in Paris and things that you should know before you go, things that may help you plan your trip in the future to get to Paris, France. I do have my itinerary for sale. It's only $2, fairly cheap, which lists everything that I did from this past trip. It is a Paris and London itinerary, and it will tell you what I did and give you a link to book it or give you more information about what I did for that activity. So that can help you in starting your planning for that trip to Paris. And as well as this video talking about my experience and learning things that you should know before you go to Paris, right? So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. It is free for you to do so, and it helps me provide more and better content to you in the future. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments about this video, make sure you leave that down below in the comment box. I'll be sure to respond. I respond to all of the comments. And make sure you share this video with your friends, family, and your social media networks because they may want to know more about going to Paris themselves. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day or night wherever in the world you are. Bye.